Good evening, reloaders. Reloading Bench back with you once again. And we're going to take a step back in time to circa 1990, about 32 years ago. And I have looked off and on for one of these, the Lee Precision Auto Prime 2. It's an on-press priming mechanism. And when I first started reloading in 2010-ish, I remember picking up the Lee Ram Prime, which is a very similar product to this in that, you have your whatever this particular die is called. I'll call it the shell holder die or the priming die. And you have this snapped into your RAM. The difference is this Auto Prime feeds this die with an old school Lee round tray, whereas this was a hand. Every time you'd lower the die or the RAM, you would have to insert a primer and then raise the RAM, and then it would seat in your particular casing. Kind of like this is exactly what the 50 BMG, how you prime a 50 BMG or in my case a 416 Barrett casing. So the Lee Ram Prime. So I would say first came this, then came this, and a few years ago I did a video on this. So what we're going to talk about is the roughly 25, 27-ish year difference in priming, really low end in terms of technology and cost, when you look at things that are out there on the market. So I picked this up. It was a complete set, and I went ahead and copied the instructions, because the instructions were still in pristine shape. So I made, in my typical fashion, the beat around laminated version. So I will get to both. So the parts, I don't think it really talks about the parts. Your two priming arms, obviously you can see the difference. Small prime, large primer. Small primer, large primer. A very old lock ring, which the rubber O-ring looks like it's seen better days. The exact same casing. This is a little nicer shaped for the Ram Prime, but again, all original equipment in what I would call exceptional condition, considering the age. So you would obviously screw this die, this priming die, into your press. Which, what makes this beautiful is you don't need your press. But I think what we will do is, and I can't remember, it's been too long, how to, wow, there's actually a primer in there. Holy moly. That's hilarious. Wow, that's been in there for a longy time. All right, I wonder what else is. Wow, there's another one. That means we had some primers stuck in the tray. Wow, that's funny. That's why we couldn't get the shell holder out, because the primers were in there. All right, and actually this primer, what's interesting is these are the flat primers, flat shell holders. That's funny. So we would use the normal Lee shell holders, and that is what number is that? That's a number 4 for 223. So I have a little piece of 223 brass. So in order to put this together, let's pretend that this is sitting in the press. We're going to find the small primer punch, which is this one. We're going to take the spring out. We're going to put this in like that. We're going to pop that down there. And then we are going to pop that in there like that. So if this was on the press, this, just like the Ram Prime, would be locked into your bottom of your Lee press, same diameter as, you know, your shell holder. So where you lock your shell holder in, you would also lock this pole in, whatever this, it's probably not called pole. Slip the spring over the proper punch, insert the large or small primer through the hole, blah, blah, blah. Install the proper shell holder into the auto prime. Snap the push rod. Okay, so this is called the push rod into the ram. So right there. So this would be, so in effect what's happening is when the ram goes up, it pushes the primer. So you're saying, oh, that's kind of cool. So I think this actually has to go in first. So we're going to do a small primer, which is this one. So this goes in like that, very similar to this. This goes in like that. And this tray would be full of primers, kind of like your Lee Classic turret. Only you're feeding, again, it's doing the exact same thing as this, only this requires no press. So in effect, what you've got going on here is identical. So this push rod is what primes the case. So you would have your casing in, just like pushing that down is the same thing. There's the push rod for that particular shell holder. Here's our 223 casing, and I will push the rod up, and there's our casing. It is now being faux primed. So if that was the press, this was a press method of priming with this kind of tool. So Lee took the press, the requirement for the press, let me get that straight. Oh, I'm not left-handed. I don't do shit left-handed. That is a number 4. There we go. I do not do stuff left-handed. So this would be anchored to my bench, and that would be how you're priming cases off press. So effectively, this is what this morphed into without needing the press. So half a dozen of one, 6 of another. But in my opinion, the cool factor of this is just there. So old school, newer school, but it's all cool. And it's great to see where things originated and how they evolved and transitioned into what we have today for some of the really what I would call economical off-press priming solutions. And yeah, I'm sure somebody's going to be out there bashing this. Oh, it's cheap Lee cast iron stuff. And yeah, you could say it's inexpensive Lee cast iron stuff, but it works. And this was cool. This was way cool for old school single stage press. I will say that the cool factor on this is off the charts. Very, very cool, I must say. So good stuff. Large primer, small primer, push rod, lock ring, your 2 arms for large and small primer, and your primer tray. Very cool stuff. That is it for tonight, folks. Have a great weekend.